welcome to the Talking Technology podcast with NCBI Labs. I'm your guest host for today, Sean Doran. On today's show, we have Kieran O'Mahony, Chief Technology Officer with NCBI, Adela Bulliman, a QA tester in IA Labs. And on today's podcast special, we're going to discuss all things SmartHub. Now, Kieran, you've been on the show many times before, but could you give us a little bit an introduction about yourself?
Thanks, Sean. As Sean said, I'm Kieran O'Mahony. I'm the Chief Technology Officer with the National Council for the Blind of Ireland. And so basically that means that I am responsible for all the technology that staff use and all the systems within NCBI. But more importantly, I'm responsible for technology training and innovations for service users. So I joined in 2019, first time working in the charity sector. I also suffer from some sight loss myself. I have congenital nystagmus, so that works out about 17% of normal vision. I kind of live by the single mantra in NCBI, which I do firmly believe that technology is the biggest enabler for someone with sight loss.
And that is something that we've been sort of following ever since, and introducing lots of new technologies, and that's some of the technology we discuss in this show with the SmartHub. But before we get to that there, we also have Adela on the call. Adela, this isn't your first time on the podcast, but we'll get you to introduce yourself again.
Yeah, so I'm Adela. I'm one of the QA testers in IA Labs, which is the digital accessibility arm of NCBI, where we try to make the internet more accessible for all people, one website and mobile app at a time. And I also lead the SmartHub project.
Thanks very much, Adela. So what was the thinking behind the SmartHub project? Like, what did you identify and what solutions did you research?
Do you want me to go with that one, Sean?
Please, Karen, if you can.
Yeah. So the myNCBI SmartHub really it's kind of the first time that we're aware of that a charity in Ireland has built its own AI-based voice technology. And we're really excited to bring that to all of our service users. So the thinking behind it really came from our service users, and it came from feedback that, Sean and I, and even before Adela joined the team, so many service users were reaching out to us and saying, these smart devices, Amazon Alexas and Google Homes, are so enabling. They're allowing people to listen to the news or read their audiobooks or tell the time or ask what the weather is, and they were becoming a great they're becoming a great source of independence, and I used them myself, and Sean and I had been talking, and we knew for a long time that NCBI really, had to be at the forefront of, innovation when it came to technology, as opposed to just changing it. So the myNCBI SmartHub really kind of developed that concept where can we actually provide not only information on sight loss to people with a smart device, but also, how can you access NCBI services? And we sometimes everything just kind of aligned with this project. We really had so much feedback from service users about how they loved smart devices and how they really wanted to use them more and more. We thought, how about if you used a smart device to get accurate information on sight loss, which NCBI is obviously one of the leaders in, but also access and information to the services that NCBI offer. And when we kicked off, we weren't actually responsible for the pandemic, but when we were in the midst of the pandemic, it became even more important because, access to technology was just, it is an expensive thing. So this one really meant that, a service could be provided to you using a device which is, 30, 40, 50 euro as an entry point. So it really made a huge amount of sense to do something in that. So that was really the thinking behind it. We knew that the service users that we were talking to loved smart devices, and we wanted to make an application that would run on them that could be useful to service users. And after all, these devices, Amazon Alexa and Google Homes, they're inherently accessible to people with sight loss because there's no screen, there's no visual elements.
And I suppose that's a very important thing. Like, we know from NCBI's background in training people and using technology that we can train anyone to use any piece of technology, but there's always a learning curve involved, where that's using magnification or you're using a screen reader. So something like an Alexa device, it's purely voice interactive. It's like there's no real resistance. It's set up and a person can interact with our services.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's interesting. It's probably the most complicated part of a smart device is setting it up. But once you're set up, it's just an accessible tool. There's a great example that I always talk about is that so many people been having that. Really lost my train of thought there. But what I was trying to say is, if you look at, let's say, for example, I want to listen to the news. Someone who is fully sighted might open an app on their phone, or they might turn on the radio, and there's no obstacle. But let's say you're feeling the buttons and the buttons aren't labeled, or there's nothing that's tactile in that. Just being able to say, hey, Amazon, or hey, I don't want to say the word in case it triggers people's devices, but hey, Amazon, play RT News or play Today FM, or it's such a small little thing, but each one of these are gradual bits of independence that people have, or what's the time, what's the weather, etc. And that they are all just inherently accessible on a device like a smart device.
I know I always use the example that everyone who listens, like with Alexa devices, that I would say things like, remind me to take the wheelie bins out on a Tuesday night because I will forget otherwise. I think even something as small as that there is very beneficial, and everything that we'll be bringing with the SmartHub is going to be adding so much extra to it. I suppose one of the main benefits of a device like an Amazon device or a Google device is the relative low cost compared to other technologies. Have you any kind of points on that, Kyron or Adela?
Yeah, I mean, I think for low cost is a huge benefit of this technology. It's like an iPhone, or if you want to get an Android phone of any level of quality, like you're going to spend upwards of €600-700, to have a phone. Similarly to like a desktop computer, whether it's a Mac or PC, if you're so way inclined, like they're very, very expensive pieces of technology. So the barrier to entry is quite high. And I think that's such a huge benefit of this type of technology, voice technology, that it is a lot cheaper to purchase. What would you say, Adela?
I think I agree with all your points there. I mean, the cost, the ease of use, there's so many benefits to having a speaker rather than other types of technology that you have to be trained on or spend a lot of money on.
Now, I detected some subtle undertones about Android and PC use, but that's for another show, so we're not going to go into that.
Have you let all the, seeing as I'm here again on the Talking Technology podcast, and we've kind of kicked JP off for the day. In actual fact, it's a well-deserved break. But have you informed all the listeners that coming soon is the iOS versus Android, Mac versus PC battles version? Is it 3? So that's something to listen out for in a future show.
It'll be the final debate, or will there be more to follow? But yeah, no, that's absolutely going to be planned for.
We've won twice so far. Like Apple and has won twice. So let's go for is it the hat trick? They say.
Yeah. I don't remember being carried away in my shield, but I wouldn't remember something like that anyway. But what you said about SmartHub there at the start of this call was actually, you said a charity has not used a piece of technology like this before in this manner. But I feel actually there's no one who's used a piece of technology in this manner before, even outside of it, even large organizations outside of charities. I think this is a fairly innovative piece of technology that we are implementing.
Yeah, and that's really one of the things that was so interesting around this project is, yeah, we don't know for sure. Like I know some, like our counterpart in the UK have released small voice apps, but I'm not saying anything negative about them. But one of the things about the myNCBI SmartHub is that, to the best of our knowledge, no one has embedded so many features both charity or private sector in voice technology. And even the company that we worked with to build the device was so supportive of that, because we really wanted to challenge the capabilities of what you could do on Amazon Alexa and Google Home and see how far we could take it. So if I give people a few examples of some of the wealth of features that are available to people with sight loss and their families on the myNCBI SmartHub. So you can do things like ask about NCBI and tell me about the history of NCBI, or you can ask about information on it. Well, my Google in the background has just kicked off. I'm not sure if that was picked up on it was, yeah. But interestingly, it found a lot of the results on search, but didn't show anything. But what you can do on the myNCBI SmartHub is that we keep updated information on all types of sight loss. So you can say things like, tell me about nystagmus, or tell me about the types of, eye conditions, tell me about the symptoms that you would expect for it, or even treatments that are available. So NCBI has a network of community resources workers around the country, and Jean Kiernan was instrumental, who was a CRW in NCBI, in making sure that that information was as up to date and accurate, but also easy to understand as well. So myNCBI SmartHub really represents like a key place of information on sight loss, and that's not just for service users. That's for their family and friends as well. And like if like anyone, if you Google, let's say, congenital nystagmus, which is my condition, you'll probably get 3 and 4 million results. And how are you to know what's accurate and what's up to date? But that's where the myNCBI SmartHub comes in, and it allows you to take control of that and have a single source of truth on information on sight loss.
I think that's a very good point. Like as everyone on this call is like a technologist, we can be a bit kind of rough around the edges and points like that. So like someone like Jean coming in to read through all that material, to rewrite a lot of it, that was only adding extra benefits to the end product for anyone who's going to be interacting with this voice model. And like we know that this was a large undertaking. Like, so outside that there, what sort of planning and research went into the SmartHub project?
I'd say, ultimately, a project of this scale, which it took, I think, from the very inception, or the concept when we went out to try and find how it would be funded. I'd say you were probably looking at about March 2020 until it's going to be fully launched on May the 19th. So you're looking at, a year and a half maybe in total, Sean, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know like we did a lot of research very early on in terms of, like we're saying, what types of technology we would use and what would be the best user experiences, like you were discussing there. And we kind of opted for voice models because we were saying, we can teach anyone to use pieces of technology, but this is actually, you're interacting straight away as a conversation. So we had to speak with a lot of people within NCBI to scope out the full service offerings within all departments of NCBI.
Actually, if you don't mind me asking you a question, Sean, just to take the MC hat for a second, you used a term there that people mightn't be hugely familiar with, which is a voice model. What really is a voice model?
Well, a voice model, like if we look at our phones or our computers, like these are our programs, and there's going to be like, user interfaces, and that's often referred to as UI. But like a voice model it's a similar process. You're planning a computer program out, or you're planning an application out, but it's in a purely conversational manner. So Alexa works, or Google will work in that manner where you are speaking to it and it's answering questions, or you're asking a certain subset of questions and it has a certain subset of responses to move through that. So what we do then is we plan out each conversation, everything we're building into the application, to make sure that it will always feel like a natural conversation and you're not going to get lost or stuck anywhere within that. So that's like a voice interaction.
And I think, like, I know when you originally asked me the question just regarding the research, really the research that we did before we tendered for a company to build this for us. There was many whiteboarding sessions to figure out what can we do, a lot of research and technical and desk-based research to figure out, what are the capabilities of the myNCBI SmartHub. So, this really was a huge piece of technology research, because nothing like this had ever been done before, but also we wanted to make sure that it represented, key features that service users would want, Now, luckily, I do have sight loss myself, so I can have some level of insights into what it's like, but a lot of what we brought to bear on this project was really the culmination of years of asking service users, what support they need or what technology would help them.
Absolutely. And I know you made a major point at the start of this project that, not only are we asking NCBI what services we were offering and how to best represent that, but what do our service users want? And we were taking turns. I know you did some of them, Karen. I was in some of the technology clubs around the country, and other clubs that we would sit in on and talk about our plans for the SmartHub and receive feedback from service users. How important is that feedback to a project like this?
Oh, I'd say it's absolutely critical. I mean, it's a difficult one, but it's also a hugely important one, because you want to hear it also. You want to hear exactly what obstacles service users have. You also want to hear, what how they use, of the service users that have smart devices, how they use them, and then again, of those that are looking to buy a smart device, what they want out of it. So you kind of take a lot of that information. And the other thing that we found as well is that there's also, NCBI is a big organization. We want to make sure that we can provide that information by means of a technology that's easy to understand. And I think for this particular project, research was a key part of it, but also because this is kind of a first of its kind, you kind of have to take a little bit of a leap of faith in terms of how it worked. And you know what? I'm actually really interested to hear, Adela, from your side, because I think when you joined originally NCBI and now obviously IA Labs, but when you joined the company and you saw the SmartHub for the first time, when you came on board, like what was your initial impressions of what we were doing and what we were building?
I thought it was pretty amazing, honestly. Like, not to toot our own horn, I guess, but yeah, I mean, it's it's such an innovative idea, and you might have used the term disruptive technology earlier. It's completely new, and it's looking at the world in a completely different way. And it wasn't something I was used to, thinking, well, here's a group of people who work a different way and they have a different ability, and let's kind of take that and use it to our advantage. But I thought it was really great.
I know, like, the way my brain works, and I can jump around on tangents here, and I probably set this meeting or interview on a tangent. Like, Adele, you mentioned disruptive technology there. Like, to someone who doesn't know what disruptive technology is, that kind of sounds like a negative, but is that a negative, disruptive technology?
It's not. I think maybe disruptive has bad connotations, but really all it means is change. And a lot of times change can be really, really good. Sometimes the way we do things is outdated, and bringing a new way of technology and communication and interaction into our lives can only be a good thing.
Absolutely. I suppose like for people who don't know what disruptive technology is, it's a term that's used for an innovative piece of technology that's different from what, maybe your current organization or whatever else is currently using, and it kind of disrupts old ways of thinking. So that's why, we were actually shortlisted for a Spider Award in disruptive technology for the SmartHub. Which is, for charity to be nominated for these awards, like you mentioned in the past, is phenomenal. But to be nominated for such a category as disruptive technology means that we are building something that hasn't been done before, and we're moving in new ventures, and it's allowing people to then interact with us in a much easier manner. And I suppose if I was to sort of bring things back round, Kyron, this is a major project. Like, how is something like this funded?
Yeah, I mean, and working in the charity sector, and trying to build software. I mean, and I've built many apps and websites before in my past, and they're not cheap, and I really wanted NCBI to be in the space of innovation, and as Sean was saying, and using disruptive technology to support people with sight loss, but we got to pay for it, so we applied for funding. We applied for funding to Rethink Ireland, who had an opportunity to pitch for specific innovations that could assist people through COVID-19. And we were successful in securing 200,000 euros worth of funding from them, which is just incredible, and really, they believed in the concept that we pitched to them, and they believed also that we could do it, because taking a chance on a brand new piece of technology and a brand new thing that needs to be developed is a big thing to do for funding. And that's why we really wanted to, make sure we did it right. So we spent, not to talk a little bit about the research, but we spent so much time and late night and hours and checking and testing and testing again, Adela, and testing again, and then testing
I remember.
again, and making sure that, we didn't waste one single penny of that investment, and we really took that so seriously. So I also would like to take this opportunity to say a huge thank you to the team in Rethink Ireland. Aisling Redmond was our lead, and their support throughout the project was incredible. We couldn't have asked for a better team to support us. And they kept on top of us for reports, as they should do. And we, as I said, every single penny we made sure we spent on delivering a piece of technology that would support people with sight loss.
That's absolutely amazing that we can get someone who believes in what we're doing and backs us like that. So if we were telling a story and we had the idea, we researched it, we got the funding, how did we find someone to build it? Is it a difficult process to define developers who can build something like this? And, basically, who were they and how did they help along the project?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of this happened before you'd even joined the team, Adela, but we, obviously this is government funding. We're government supported agency. So, and we didn't have, and this is like that you've been given the money, you actually have to build it. So it's almost like, all this talk that you've had, Kyron, and this idea that you and the team have had, like, you need to actually build it now, which was, kind of terrifying, to be honest. So, we obviously ran a tender for it, followed all procurement guidelines around that, and made sure that we found a developer. The trouble that we had, if I'm really open about this, is that we needed a development company to believe in the concept, and support such an important initiative. So at the end of the tender process, we had 8, I think it was 8, so forgive me if that might be wrong, but 8 submissions from companies around the world. But one in particular really stood above everyone else, and that is Kation Consulting, based in Ireland. And it was great to align to a software company that really understood what we wanted to do, but also understood the importance of what we wanted to do, and how building a piece of technology like this would support service users and support people with sight loss. And Kation were amazing to work with. They've gone above and beyond anything that we could have expected or asked of them. And they have some other really big clients in Ireland. They've done and are working on Ryanair Alexa apps. They worked with GAA in Ireland, and someone who I'm forgetting. I think, Sean, you might help me out.
It's a famous British celebrity who has a cooking skill. Her name has completely escaped me now too, because I remember speaking to Alan and Cathy on about her voice.
Yeah. I'm sure he'll be listening and he'll send us a text. But
was it Nigella?
No, I don't think so. No. It was. They were a wonderful team to work with. Alan Kiernan is their chief technology officer and our chief architect, and he's a founder of the company as well, and is so knowledgeable on voice and voice technology as well, and really guided us through the process of translating the voice models that, and a little bit of dub slipped out there, the voice models into their technology, and really just to say a huge thank you for their support and helping us on the journey to build this project.
And I suppose like when we were working with Alan and his team and Cathy on, like there was no problems, because every problem we encountered they had an instant solution for, so that was amazing. And they kind of introduced us to things like AWS, because like they're a consulting partner with Amazon Web Services, and introduced us to things like Cognito. Could you tell us a bit more about things like Amazon Web Services and Cognito? And like people are going to be hearing all sorts of terms with SmartHub, like IDPs and things like that there, and what is the benefit of them? What does it actually mean?
Sure. I mean, ultimately, this project is a technology project, and it's a technology project that's built on innovation. So we needed, and for those of you who are out there that are quite technical and enjoy this side of things, I'll give you some insights into it. So all of our infrastructure is sitting on Amazon Web Services. So Amazon Web Services is, they provide cloud-based infrastructure for servers and different types of management. And all of our system sits up there, but we've worked really hard. Obviously, we don't want to have long-term ongoing costs on this, so we've worked really hard to keep a lot of that down so it's affordable for something like us as a charity. And in fact, I'd say our running costs on such a big system like this would be, in the low hundreds of euros per year, which is insane to have that kind of capacity. So working on a system like AWS is amazing. And also, what a lot of people don't realize is that Amazon is actually two companies. So Amazon, where you buy your books from, or now you can buy pretty much anything from, 50% of that business is actually Amazon Web Services, which most companies around the world use for all their servers and hosting. So we chose to partner with them. But just to give people some insights, earlier this year, in earlier 2021, we launched the new NCBI.ie website, and that has a section which is called myNCBI. So behind that really is a concept that allow all our service users a single username and password to log in to all of NCBI's websites, whether that's Bookshare or whether that's NCBI.ie or the SmartHub. And we're also have a number of other projects that are in the pipelines that we're looking forward to announce real soon. But you get to use the same username and password. So that's built on a technology called Cognito, which is an AWS technology which allows what's called single sign-on. So that ability to sign in with the same username and password. And really, what we wanted to do in NCBI is create this holistic approach to services. So any service that you're looking for, you've the same access to it, and you don't have to remember 10, 15 different passwords. So it's a really cool technology, and it's embedded at the heart of NCBI now.
That's a great feature, because I think we've all felt the pain of sitting in front of a login page and thinking, I have 10 emails and 50 passwords, and like which one is meant to go in here? But if they're all the same email and password, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, so true.
And before all this, I thought Amazon only sold books, but to do a lot more than that, it seems, which is fantastic. So if we're continuing on the narrative of telling like the bedtime story of start, middle, and end, so we've got to the stage of building and built, but now that it is built, like everything's in place. Can you give us a rundown of how someone would interact with the SmartHub and like what a typical user would do on the SmartHub?
Yeah, so you can go ahead if you like.
No, you go.
Okay, so first of all, as we mentioned earlier, we've loads of information. So you have your sight loss information. I think we have about 19 different conditions with general info, symptoms, treatments, how NCBI can help you and your family, as well as just anything you can possibly think about NCBI services. You can say something as simple as tell me about the employment services, tell me about children's services, technical sales. We really tried to fit in as much information as possible so that users don't have to go Googling or searching. You can just tell her one sentence and she'll reply to you.
And how does that work, Adela, in a conversational manner? If we were sort of describing how the SmartHub works, like how does it start off? What does Alexa roughly say to us, and how do we ask it questions?
So the first thing to do is to launch it. So you say to your device, you call her name, I won't say it, launch myNCBI or open myNCBI, anything along the lines of that. And you'll hear our lovely little intro music and a kind of menu system where she'll say, oh, well, we have core services and children's services and so on. Which would you like to listen to? And you could just reply whatever word she said that you'd like to hear about.
And like when she tells you about these services, you can interact with that further then, can't you?
Yeah, there's a few levels within the menu as such. So you can say additional services and then she'll list out, library services, day and hub, all the different options basically. And then she waits and you reply with the name of the one you'd like to listen to.
And like Karen was talking about, like a one password for all, that's myNCBI feature. If you were logged into that while using the SmartHub, what additional benefits can you gain from that?
So there's two main benefits to having your account linked. One is our callback features. So say you're listening to employment services, you like what you're hearing, you want to know more about it. At the end, she'll ask you, do you want to hear more? Do you want someone to call you about this? And then you can say yes, and your details, whatever email you're linked with or your phone number will be sent to NCBI, and then a trained staff member can give you a ring and give you a bit more information about that. The second feature, which I really like, is talking newspapers and magazines. So I know a lot of our service users are members of talking newspapers, which is it's a section of the library. We have 17 different magazines and newspapers with audio recordings of articles. So between our 17 newspapers and magazines, we have, I think, thousands of recorded articles on the SmartHub that you can listen to.
That is true. And I suppose a benefit of having it on the SmartHub is traditionally we would transfer those recordings onto a USB key, which we would then free post to a service user who would connect it to their player, like a sovereign player, for example, listen to the newspapers, free post it back to us, which we would then start to process all over again. But having an Alexa device in their house means that they can have access to all those newspapers as they're uploaded, and there's no wait for the postman to deliver those papers to you. So I think that's going to be a really useful feature for a lot of people. And those players are probably an equivalent price to an Alexa or Google device. But with those smart devices, you're obviously getting a whole host of extra services. So I think that's an amazing thing.
But yeah, exactly. I think it's my favorite feature.
Sorry, Del. Sorry, I didn't mean to drop it.
You're all right, don't worry.
Was one of those features that seemed very small, but will be such a help to so many people. Like, so Sean was saying, the library at the moment is sending out tons and tons of USB keys and to people that have players at home. Whereas now you can just ask the myNCBI SmartHub to play the magazine, your favorite magazine, or you could listen to the newspaper. The Irish Times is recorded almost every day by the library, and you can listen to that now on your smart device if you're a library member. And I would encourage everyone who's listening today, if you're not a library member, do reach out to Lena and all the team in NCBI library.
We've also implemented a great notification feature. So if you like, when you're listening, she'll ask you, is sport your favorite genre? Say if you're listening to a sport article, and if you say yes, she'll ask, do you want a notification when one is uploaded? And then you will get a notification on your phone every single time another article in the sports section is uploaded, which I think is really nice because you don't have to check all the time. You'll know exactly when it's coming.
Absolutely, and like we're going to be adding extra library features to the SmartHub in the coming weeks and months, so look out for them, and we'll be discussing them on obviously further podcasts and in our newsletters as usual. But I suppose I always have to bring the conversation back around to accessibility, and it's a key point in anything NCBI Labs are involved in. So is there any sort of accessible anything that hindered the project from an accessibility point of view, and if so, like how was that overcome?
I think so. We had accessibility at the forefront really throughout this project. So even our backend, our IDP that we mentioned, we tested that completely for accessibility, and Katie, who we spoke about earlier, implemented all of those accessibility features. So even if we have staff members who are visually impaired or blind, which we do, they're able to use our systems and still do the work that's needed. But another thing we found was, as great as AWS were in some aspects, their UI wasn't accessible. So their actual login platform to sign up wasn't accessible, and we reached out to them for many months, and nothing was changed. So we looked in a different direction, and we found Auth0, who are accessible, and we ended up wrapping the entire kind of system in an Auth0 UI. So when you go to the NCBI website or your smart device and you click sign up and you see that login page, that's Auth0, and they made that accessible for us.
So that was obviously paramount, that everything's accessible, but definitely the first point as a login had to be accessible. So like you said, we had to wrap our login with another login to allow that to happen. But even everything, like we tested everything, even from like the onboarding process. So onboarding would be when you have your phone and you search for an application and you install the Amazon application or the Google application, and then you look through them for skills and actions to install. We had to make sure that was completely accessible. And Adele, I know you and the team went through that to no end to check that, and you found no issues with that.
No, I actually think the Alexa app is quite good in terms of accessibility. You can find everything quite easily. The things are labeled.
And I suppose going forward, we'll always look for more and more improvements in accessibility, and always try to make things as easy as possible. And like Kyra was discussing the myNCBI feature, and that sounds like it's going to get bigger and bigger and better as we move throughout the months in NCBI. And I think we'd have to dedicate a whole show to talk about all the features that we have sort of planned out in the coming months to improve that there. So we won't discuss it on this show. But if you're looking at SmartHub solely, so this is SmartHub version 1 that's going to be released officially now in the next week or so. But if we are looking to version 2, can you discuss any sort of plans around version 2 of the SmartHub?
Yeah, well, I will admit I have a massive list of things to implement. The project definitely is not stopping here. We're only starting to have service users use the skill now, and they've been slowly bringing back a bit of feedback. We've also got some feedback from technology groups and stuff that we'd like to implement. One of the things is I'd love if the virtual clubs could be done through the device, through the skill, so you don't have to go to your laptop and start up Teams and so on. And other things like that. Every single thing that our service users are bringing back to us, I'm putting on that list for version 2.
And I suppose, like you're saying there, like feedback from the testers was critically important for us. Like that, this bit was difficult, this bit was easy, this bit could be improved, and we were working, and we have improved a lot of them. But like you were saying, that when people started using it, they had ideas for more features to be added, and whether that's more library features or, a great feature that was mentioned to us that we'll have to add to a future release was, I'd love if all the JAWS shortcuts and keystrokes, I could ask the device, what is the keystroke for such and such, or what is the iOS gesture for such and such, or the talkback gesture for such and such, and then it'll be delivered back to you. Because as good as we all are, and we remember 80% of the keystrokes that we need, there's always just one that eludes us, and I think that would be a really useful feature for everyone. And they're the kind of things that are getting suggested from us, from feedback where people are currently testing it, and from the technology groups. So just before we kind of wrap up with the whole SmartHub thing, is there anything else you'd like to speak about before we do wrap up?
I think would it be good to talk about how people can get a smart device directly from NCBI?
Yeah,
absolutely.
So one of the things that will make this project successful is how many people that we can give a smart device to. So NCBI have about 300 devices, and that number is growing to give away to service users who are registered with NCBI. So if you don't have a smart device, you can send us an email, smarthub@ncbi.ie, and we'll and take note of that and see if we can get a list to you. So there's no mystery in terms of how we're allocating them. It's purely, there's two criteria. It's you must be a registered service user with NCBI, and additionally, you must it will be a first come first served basis, because supplies are limited, and we're hoping to keep adding additional devices to the list. But please, if you'd like to get a free Alexa device, do email smarthub@ncbi.ie.
And that's fantastic. I mean, there's going to be many people out there who don't have access to something like that there, and just the whole slew of features that myNCBI SmartHub will add to someone is going to be very useful. And just like we were discussing around the device itself, it's just so useful to have. So yeah, anyone who does need one, contact the email address that Karen said there, and we will get one out to you as soon as possible.
The other thing I'd like to say, Sean, is just a huge thank you to the NCBI team and all the work that they've done on bringing this together, specifically to yourself, Sean, and Adela. This was being a huge project to achieve, and to build the product the way it was done has been professional from the outside. And just I'd like to say a huge thank you to you and all of the team who worked on SmartHub, myNCBI SmartHub, and making it a reality. It wasn't an easy project, and it has had its ups and downs, but I'm thrilled to be launching it. And this product is launching, by the way, guys, in case it's either you're listening to the podcast before it's launched or the day after it's launched, but we're launching the myNCBI SmartHub on Global Accessibility Day, which is the 19th of May. So from the 19th, it is the 19th of May, Sean, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Global Accessibility Awareness Day,
yeah. And it'll be available to everyone from that time. And what I'd also say as well, like Adela was saying, and you both said, is that we want to make this system as useful as possible. So anyone that has any feedback, we listen to every single piece of feedback that comes in. Just send an email to smarthub@ncbi.ie. And the one final feature that we haven't spoken about yet, but I'd love to have a quick discussion on it if we still have time, Sean.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm speaking now, I suppose, to any of the other charities or organizations that are listening now. A really important feature of the myNCBI SmartHub is the technology is built to be transferable to any other organization. So you don't have to invest €200,000 like we were lucky enough to receive from Rethink Ireland. For a couple of, a few €1,000. I'm not sure the exact cost. We can apply that same technology to your organization. So if you're another disability support provider in Ireland, or you're outside of Ireland, NCBI can give you a copy effectively, or what's called in the technology world, a white labeled version of this technology. So you can have your own version of the myNCBI SmartHub for very, very little cost. So do reach out to us, because I think it's a feature we don't speak about a lot, but it's an incredibly powerful feature of the myNCBI SmartHub, that it's transferable to other charities, both in Ireland and internationally. And I'd love to be having a conversation this time next year where we're saying it's now, working in 10 other types. It's supporting other disabilities, whether they're motory or auditory or whatever the case may be. But this technology can be applied to many, many charities at very, very low cost. So one of the biggest benefits of this entire project is building a technology in a mechanism that can be transferable. So if you're interested and you're involved, or even if you're a friend or family member of someone with a disability that's not sight loss, do reach out to us, smarthub@ncbi.ie.
That's actually a very good thing to know, Karen. It's something we will have to tell more people about. But that's a fantastic thing to be able to sort of share this technology with people, because it is so new. And if we talk about disruptive technologies again, it's so important that other people are using things like this, because it is such an easy thing to use. And so we've sort of done the hard work and the research and building it and getting help from Catyon and Alan and his team, that it only makes sense that we pass this on to other people and allow them to, reap the benefits. So just like to thank all our listeners for listening to this special edition, and to apologise for my lack of hosting skills, but hopefully, that'll improve in future when we do these special one-off shows, and I can maybe have another go. But we'd like to thank everyone for listening, and if you have any questions, like Karen says, it's smarthub@ncbi.ie. Any feedback or device requests can go there. And as usual, if you need any technical support from NCBI Labs, you can contact labs@ncbi.ie as usual, and we're more than happy to help with any of your needs, and if you need any help with like Alexa or Google setups, etc. So thanks very much, and for future podcasts, we'll be sending out in the newsletter the next shows, features, etc. Thanks very much, everyone, and goodbye.